Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is life coach and LOA teacher Joel Elston.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
It's funny, while the music was playing, Joel, I was thinking about a conversation we had before we got started. And the topic that Jen came up with us, for us to talk about today is struggle. And it occurred to me, what we talked about earlier is kind of a cue. It's a cue about how we in life, without realizing it, create our own struggles.
Yeah. Well, and that is, we're the architect of our reality. Our perspective creates our reality. And this is a really hard concept for a lot of people to accept. A lot of people, they call it victim shaming, victim blaming.
Right.
All those things. So there's I'm going to circle back in a second to a pretty cool topic based on the struggle or lack of struggle. So you've heard me say many times on the show, we talked about the benefit of struggles. To me, struggle is a growth mechanism. I struggled for a long time and didn't understand that. So I viewed struggle as punishment. I now look at the struggle as what made me who I am today. Every day I still in the gym, I'm struggling in the gym. And I view struggle as an ally. Similar to my reframe of failure, I do struggle. So there is benefit to struggle. There is growth from struggle, or it can be debilitating, but it's dependent on your perspective.
Yeah.
So the part that angers most people, they will defend their victimhood, and that, I've had to struggle so hard, I've had to go through this, and life's always screwed me over. And it's like, because you're viewing struggle or failure on the wrong tier. And that's what all the law of attraction is about: reframing, understanding. You're going to attract what you're feeling. And if you view struggle as just pure punishment, you're going to attract a lot of negative struggle.
That's right. Yeah. And in the process of doing that, you're also not only attracting it, you're defining it.
Right. So we're going to make a sort of a leap here. This is cutting edge stuff. You're going to hear it here first. All right.
Okay. Fair enough.
So Dr. Huberman, Andrew Huberman, neuroscientist at the podcast, really good guy. This is his original concept, and I give him credit for this. He pointed out in a podcast a few months ago that dopamine is a chemical of craving, of desire. There's a lot of things that dopamine does.
Right.
He made the argument, rightfully so, and I now understand why. There's dopamine that's obtained from working out, from completing a project, struggle stuff, hard stuff. So dopamine from the struggle, from the effort, is a really good thing. It's a reinforcer. It really helps. Dopamine from cheap sources such as porn, gambling, drugs, just the constant social media stuff where you're just getting dopamine with no struggle or no effort, is a very negative thing, and it's very addicting. And that was his original concept. And I love that concept, and I believe it. It's something that helped me reframe my thinking. So, of course, I have to go do more searching and understanding why. So I'm still learning this, so I'm gonna have to read a little bit, but
sure.
I can't say the name because it's like 7 pages long, but it's like AMPK is the body's primary energy sensor. AMPK.
Okay. AMPK.
Yeah, and I won't even try to say that because it's really long what that stands for. But it is, when cellular energy is low, AMPK is what turns on for survival. It's what turns on for that. So when you're exhausted from struggle, AMPK turns on. It is a signaling effect that this is a really good thing to help increase it does a lot of good benefits to have it. So when you work out, when you complete a project, when you get your dopamine from the right source and you're exhausted, AMPK is released. Are you with me?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, and so it's really necessary. So then when you get the cheap dopamine, AMPK is not released and it becomes depleted. So that's what causes the craving more and more and more and more cheap dopamine.
Interesting.
Makes sense? Yeah.
The distinction is between being released and depleting.
Yes. So when it's depleted through hard work and struggle, it's the body's natural mechanism to replenish the AMPK.
Mm-hmm.
When it is through the other stuff that it's just you're hijacking the brain to do it, the AMPK, it just doesn't release, and so you're looking at it. So when you do that, when it's constantly doing all this stuff, it can create these deficits in the body, which creates more craving. And I don't want to get stuck in the neuroscience of it all, and I'm still working on all these details.
Yep.
But what I'm saying is that's the system that reinforces what we've been talking about in law of attraction as well. So when you do something that's hard and view it as I learned this new coding technique, or I created this app, or I did this, any of these projects, or the reward system is like, wow, I earned that, I worked for it. So it's a positive direction versus I'm just going to get my dopamine through watching porn or doing these things that don't matter. It's not satisfying. That's why you're constantly getting craving after craving after craving.
There's a very significant distinction going on there that I want to bring out. The significant distinction is that one involves you and the other one just happens to you. Yes.
And that's a good way to put it, because so much of today's society, young people, old people, everybody, whether it's the phones, we're all for that cheap dopamine. It's easy to get there, but you just keep trying to pump it. You keep trying to make it happen. You keep trying to, but without the effort, then you become down and depressed and life's not fulfilling. But when you're out there earning it, you're like, I'm noticing the gains in the gym. I got stronger. Now the reward system is attracting more of that. So there's and there's more chemicals involved, and there's a lot of things, but I really like to point out that struggle viewed properly is a growth mechanism, as I always said, and struggle viewed negatively is a punishment. And it's the same event, but your perspective really determines a lot of how the body looks at that. Just like if I hook somebody up, you've heard this analogy multiple times. If I hook you up to an EEG machine or EKG and read all your body signals, being super excited or super anxious is the exact same readings.
Well, not only that, from what you were describing, something else occurred to me. When something merely happens to you, when you're not engaged in it directly, but you're only vicariously watching it, that level of engagement. In that case, you literally described it as a punishment.
Yes.
And that's really true. I mean, I hadn't really thought about it in those terms, but I mean, anybody who's ever watched a program on television that was putting them to sleep or making them feel like, oh, I gotta go do something, knows exactly what that feeling is like. It does feel like a punishment. Like, this is supposed to be enjoyable, and this is like the least enjoyable thing I could possibly be doing. In a sense, that's a punishment.
Absolutely. And from that perspective, as we're looking at that, the part that excites me is now, this is all theory that now we're starting to see the reason why it matters. Why our perspective over something dictates how it affects us. So the people that view stress or anxiety as rocket fuel and they know how to use it properly don't have the negative side effects from stress and anxiety.
And the way to use it properly is to engage with it.
There's a word. Have I ever mentioned the word action before? Just
occasionally. It does come up, like you refer to it apparently,
Yeah. So an action is what will turn that forward. But when you are paralyzed by something and you sit there and you look at it and you ruminate over it, then that creates the anxiety that has no release. So the central nervous system, when it gets in the fight or flight mode, is the fight or flight is an action that sort of levels out the central nervous system after it's pumped full of these chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
But when you just sit there and worry about something and you're stressing over it over and over with no action involved, then it becomes a damaging set of chemicals that, cortisol remains high, digestive systems doesn't work properly, your immune system is, it's amazing how we can see this. So the science behind your perspective is becoming more and more clear. Your perspective dictates your reality is something I always believe, but how things affect you is based on your perspective. That is, to me, one of the most exciting things I've ever known. I knew it, but now understand a little better why.
Well, it also explains something to me. I mean, something I've already explored in my life. You were part of it for a number of years, where I was just a consummate planner. I could plan anything to death.
Yes.
And I was not happy during that period. I didn't get anywhere that I wanted to get to. Nothing was working out well. If you had asked me at that time whether that felt like a punishment, it hadn't occurred to me, but I know for a fact my answer would have been yes.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what it felt like.
Yeah.
And what I thought was I was doing the right thing.
Yes.
I thought that I was doing something the way you were supposed to do it. I didn't realize I was actually working against myself.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't until I came to that realization that I finally said, okay, we got to switch this thing up.
Yes.
But what if I had been presented with the idea that that was a punishment? I mean, that probably would have shaken me out of my doldrums.
It would have. Yeah, I believe it would, because you weren't viewing it. You thought you were doing the necessary planning.
Right.
There were a few times you had a few things planned, and I was like, just do it. Just
do it. I remember you saying that. And the thought that kept going through my mind every time you said that was, well, that's easy for you to say.
Yeah, which is literally how I do everything.
Yes. And it is easy for you to say. It's easy to do too. The only part that makes it uneasy is when we stick to the plan that we've been on, which is keep planning, just keep spinning the wheel over and over and over again.
Well, and by the system that I learned that I find effective, it applies to all areas of my life. So by taking action and not over planning, you accomplish many things. First of all, you may knock it out of the park the first time. That's a possibility. Right. Second, you will then figure out what didn't work, and in a much different way, be able to figure it out. What happened? So,
which would have been very appealing to me, by the way, 15 years ago.
Yeah,
because I love figuring things out, but I couldn't seem to figure that one out. So that would have been a big deal for me.
Right. I did a consulting job several years ago in a treatment center in Atlanta, and they were trying to implement an official IOP program. A lot of regulations around. It doesn't even matter, but they wanted to implement that, and they wanted to get it requires a group of patients going through a program and seeing like different therapists or different groups during the day.
Okay.
And you have to have the right modalities, you have to have it all laid out, and it's incredibly complicated, right? They had the hardest part done is getting approved for the paperwork and all the other stuff, but they were having a hard time actually launching the IOP. And so the guy contacts me and he said, so-and-so gave me your name. And he said, so is there any way that you can help me get this IOP launched in the next 3 months? And I go, no, not possible. And he goes, yeah, that's pretty bad. I said, but I can launch it tomorrow. And he goes, no, you don't understand. I go, I do. So here's what we're going to do. So we had a group of patients, and tomorrow wasn't literal yet, but we contacted this group of patients that were on the waiting list for this thing to go. We called them our beta testers, and we said, we're going to do this program for you free. It's introductory for you free. These are very expensive program, and we're going to do it for you free. We want your feedback. We want you to see what works and what doesn't work. And we're going to give you the full program, 5-week program, and you're going to help us, and we'll be able to do that. So day one, we launched it. It was as bad as you possibly could imagine. And no organization, but nobody was mad because they understood. So I was able to say, okay, so we got to go flow this way, flow this way, flow this way. And then it became an order. So within 1 week, I had this thing running perfectly in 1 week. And I did it by launching an imperfect system, but allowed the system and the failing of the system to show me where the pressure points were that needed to be fixed.
Yes, yes, exactly. What you
And
basically did is
that's a great tool.
you implemented the word that you used twice in that description, the word flow. You implemented flow.
Yeah.
Because flow is how the whole thing happened.
Well, it's when I view these problems like that, my brain, I look at it like an engineering problem. So in engineering, no matter how complicated engineering is, it's super complicated. But you're looking at, you're engineering something like electricity. You need electricity to get from here to here. So you need the most efficient way for electricity to travel there and be able to, and it obviously gets more complicated. Chemical engineering, when you're pharmaceutical stuff, you're looking for a way for this system to produce these things that will give you this result. So everything is about flow in engineering. How do we make this flow? And that's what engineers do. They engineer the systems, and then but when you do it, and you turn it, like if you were going to build a aqueduct system, you build the system, you turn on the water, you see where the leaks are. That's pretty much what I'm talking about doing. And there's a lot of people that get stuck on perfect, get stuck on planning, and it takes months, years, and maybe it even never gets done because you're never willing to just say, let's do it and let's see what goes right. Let's see what goes wrong. I'm fascinated by that.
Well, that's why I touched on the use of the word flow, because flow, I mean, you just tell from the word, from the meaning of the word, flow has action going on in it.
Yes.
It's not possible to imagine flow without action. I mean,
flow is
the two kind of go together,
Yeah.
So the moment that you're introducing flow is the moment you're introducing action. The moment that you're introducing action, especially when you're doing it without planning, oh my God, that's the moment that you start doing the process you described. It was the act of entering flow that led you to be able to make the mistakes, find the results, make the adjustments, and so forth. That got the whole thing going in a week. The flow is what got you there.
The flow got, and then, plus the idea of the fear of the owner of this program. He didn't want a bad reputation. He wanted to hit the thing where it was running perfectly. Yeah. So we mitigated that by the first clients were super happy, by the way.
Absolutely. They couldn't lose.
They couldn't lose. And they felt like they were founding members of this. They helped build the system. So their feedback, we had a banquet for them and everything. So, it was like, they saved, I said, you guys saved us $100,000, even though we spent, in theory, $50,000 on the free stuff, So it was a really good project, and I do everything that way. I just set the system, find out what the problem is, we just constantly adjust, and it's such a great way to do it.
It reminds me also, there's a rather famous person who's quite controversial today, and quite honestly, there's a lot that he says that I really can't like at all, but I love one thing that he did. I love it so much. His name is Elon Musk. And Elon Musk, of course, owns a number of companies, including SpaceX. And one of the things that he did at SpaceX was he told his engineers to fail as early and as often as possible.
Yes.
Because that requires being in flow, right? You have to take action in order to fail. And my goodness, the rate at which SpaceX was able to not only become a major player, but become the leading player in the private rocketry business is astonishing. It's record breaking.
It is, and there's one in particular system that day that took place. So he was launching a rocket, and he did a press conference. He said, "This rocket is going to blow up."
Yes.
And everybody's eyes got really big. He said, "Where it blows up is going to give me the information. This will speed this way up. So if it gets past this point, it'll be a real victory."
Yeah.
But it's still going to blow up. And everybody thought he was crazy. It went past the point he was hoping. So it succeeded, then did exactly what he said it would do. It blew up. and I was so impressed. And his stock went up the next day or whatever.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Just because it was like, oh, he and I'm not in any way advocating that. He's got a lot of controversial stuff going on, but
he's got a crazy he's a crazy man in many ways.
Yeah, but he's a genius in this concept of let's use that and just being able to do systems and see how they work and to be able to adapt. That's exciting to me. That's action. That's so getting back to the struggle piece. So the view of failing, the view of struggle used properly is what is the best learning combination there possibly is.
By the
But
way, it occurs to me that there undoubtedly are people listening who dislike Elon Musk intensely. And it occurs to me there's a great way to release that feeling. And that is to go onto YouTube and find the video that SpaceX published of all the failures lined up.
yeah,
And they even have music that goes along with it. I think it's like, the Blue Danube or something like that. It's something that basically just turns the whole thing into a farce. If you want to feel better about Elon Musk, just look at all the different ways his program failed. It's fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous.
And one of the things that people like him do, I choose to observe and pay attention to what I choose to pay attention to. So the fact that people like him exist, I don't agree with a lot of what he says, does, and drama, and I'm not going to diagnose him, but he has obviously a lot of stuff going on. But none of that matters because he's an excellent at what he does in the area that he does it. And so you can not like him, that's another thing that you get frustrated about society today is just because you don't like one thing, you dismiss the whole thing.
Or even if you dislike, 3/4 of it, there's still the quarter that's left.
Yeah. Well, I always like to look at people. I worked with this lady years ago, and I consulted and did a transit. This company was buying a treatment center. I was a consultant to do the changeover, right? And so there's a lady that had been there with the company for 20 years. She was brilliant. She knew everything needed to be, and I wanted to retain her.
Okay.
I fired her boss, which she hated, but I wanted to retain her. And so she sat down one day and she said, "I can't believe you're destroying the company." I said, I said, "I know you'd feel that way. It's okay." I said, "But I need I do want you to stay. We're going to give you a big raise." And I said, "All I ask," I said, I get you don't like me being here. It's a big change thing. But if you can work with me toward betterment of the company, you don't have to like me, but let's be professional. I respect you." And so I was there for like a month. And toward the end, as I was getting to leave, I said, "I cannot believe how," and she said, "First of all, I was wrong. Everything you did made the place better." She said, "We really needed to do that." I said, "I can't believe how incredible you were and willing to work, even though you don't like me." And she goes, "Well, I don't like you." And I go, "Well, I don't like you either." I said, "But I respect the hell out of you." And she goes, "I respect the hell out of you too." And she gave me a hug. And it was this weird interaction that we're actually friends, but we joke about that all the time. And so she has questions, she'll email me or whatever, and just about stuff. And so I can learn to do that. I didn't, she didn't want the change, but her professionalism allowed her to still do it. The fact, and this company thrived. She had stock ownership, which I fought for her to get stock ownership. And when they finally do sell, she'll be a very wealthy woman.
It also occurs to me what you're describing is the way to achieve what so many people are frustrated about today that we haven't achieved. Many, many people are frustrated by the great political divide and how divided the country is and how much, at odds with each other they are and so forth. And what your story illustrates is the solution. The solution is you don't have to agree with them. Just find where you do agree.
Yeah.
Find where you can work with the other side. You don't have to like the rest of it. You don't have to like any of the rest of it. But is there any part of it, of the other person, that you can find that you can agree with?
Yeah. Our country years ago did it much better than we're doing it now. Because there's a lot of people on both sides that don't want that middle ground. Because it allows the extremists on either side to come in. But the reality is, there's people that I really respect what they do. I don't like them as people. We don't have a lot in common or whatever, but I can really separate personality with their value and what they bring. And it's like, I have one of my friends, she's, super organized, super planner, super everything. And she helps me with a lot of the stuff that I need for the detail stuff. She's sort of my detail person.
Right.
And at first she wanted to explain to me, and I just put my fingers in my ears and go blah 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 blah. And she said, "You're being so rude." I go, "No, you don't understand. I don't care. This
Don't
is the
care.
stupid stuff to me. You do that, and it's necessary. I know all this stuff is necessary, but I am not. I don't want to hear about it. I want to do my side, and it really works well now. And she wouldn't be able to do my side, and I certainly can't do her side.
Yeah, yeah, and that's when you start to appreciate.
Yeah,
that was one of the biggest challenges for me, because one of the things that comes out of this whole struggle concept is the challenge of how do you find ways to appreciate that what you don't like. That one stumped me for years. That one stumped me for the longest time. And it wasn't until somebody pointed out, I think it was a guest on the show pointed out to me, that you don't have to like them, you just have to appreciate them. And it never occurred to me that I could separate them. I always thought if there was somebody that you didn't like, or there was a part of them that you didn't like, then you could never appreciate them. And it's not true.
It's not true. And the premise of some of my greatest advancements came from situation I hated or disliked.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that you need to people, I hope, can get to a place, whether it's other people or situations, everything that happened to me, no matter how bad, other than my son dying, that will never make sense, but the other stuff was horrible. But oh my gosh, wow, thank God it happened, because it got me to where I'm at. And so I've learned to appreciate all of it, good, bad, and ugly. And I used to tell you that I'm grateful for all that. I wouldn't change anything. You were baffled by that statement early.
I was. I understand it a lot better now, and I appreciate it now, to fully borrow the phrase. But at the time, you're right. I mean, I remember when you first said it to me. It was one of the very first shows that we did together as a regular co-host situation. You made that comment for the first time, and after we were done, my head was spinning, and all I could think was, I like this guy so much. How could he be so nuts about this thing? Because I really thought you were crazy.
Of course. Well, I mean, yeah.
I mean, I did. That's the honest truth. I thought that you were nuts. I didn't realize how brilliant it was. That was the last thought that occurred to me. But on the other hand, I knew I like you, and there's so much I like about you. How could you do? There's got to be a reason why you're doing this. It never occurred to me that it was actually the reason up front, the one that you gave. That I ruled that one out right from the beginning.
Well, the concept of looking at life as the journey of life, the detours of life, the life is lived on the journey, the detours, the unexpected plot twist. That is what I thrive in, all that, because that kept pushing me in the right direction. It was comically efficient, and I've often said I can't even imagine the chain of events happening that brought me here to where I'm doing what I'm doing in Richmond right now, having the career and the success I've had. It doesn't seem it doesn't seem right. Almost, it's like, wow, that was crazy. But
I would say that it doesn't seem possible. I understand why you would say that it doesn't seem right. From my perspective, it seems impossible. Like that.
But it just the way. But just learning to understand, viewing it as like you're going down this path, and you're going to take side quests and adventures, and there's going to be roadblocks, and the road you got to go around. The side quests, the seemingly impossible, maybe not the word, the inconsequential is a better word. The inconsequential seeming encounters with people who you, by the way, meet them, that leads to somebody else, else, and gets you to a different position. So life has a way, when you allow the journey to happen, and you, instead of being fixated on a certain destination, just go with the journey and just love what it does. It's going to, some of them are going to be side quests that go nowhere. They're seemingly don't make any difference. Others are going to be gigantic changes, or you have ideas, the idea to pop up, and you'll be able to look at it. It's like we were talking earlier about that AMPK concept with addiction. And, we're stewing on that now, because I've always felt the one side of it, but now that I'm doing more research on that concept, it's like, there is a chemical reason of why I've always said
Mm.
the hard work, the struggle, you've always heard me say the single biggest part of my recovery was me being in the gym. I just
Yeah.
worked out.
Yeah.
It's my cornerstone, my recovery. That
Mhm.
fits perfectly now. Why?
Yeah. Well, also, not just why, also the fact that it is a part of the struggle. The struggle is what makes those seemingly inconsequential things happen.
Yes.
They rarely happen without some kind of struggle going on. It's not that they never happen. They can happen in non-struggle situations, but they're much more rare. And
Well,
it's very easy to miss that.
absolutely. And you see that the chance encounters with people, or seemingly chance encounters, the
Mhm.
idea that action leads to the next action, which leads to the next action, which makes the connections. And uh, in a lot of that philosophy, I had a dream one time about life being, the ocean has tides. It's necessary for the tides.
Mhm.
Storms are necessary. They churn things up.
Oh
They
yeah.
make things grow. Uh, Forest fires, even they
Oh yeah.
burn everything off, but it increase. So the nature is full of examples of things like we're talking about. The idea that I was looking at pictures down on Anna Maria Island a couple years ago after the hurricane had come through. I went down there right
Right.
after the hurricane went through, and it was I mean, there was all the trees, all the bed. I mean, everything was gone. It was just looked like a bomb went off. Houses tilted over, uh, and it's like, man, it'll be years before this recovers. And the trees and the seagrass and all that stuff grew really fast back. The lizards were gone. And Florida's full of lizards. All the little lizards were gone. They're all back doing what lizards do. It's amazing that it just sort of cleaned everything out and gave it a new start. And it's a resilience that from the devastation of that hurricane came all this huge amount of growth down there.
Now, a lot of that was implemented by human beings, but nevertheless, humans are also part of that natural cycle. Just roughly speaking, how long do you think it actually took from the incident of the hurricane to the moment where you realized it was all back?
Well, I don't know if it's all back because there's still some houses down, but it's 95% back. It took probably a year before you're like, okay, we're there. But that year was rough, and we're going on 2 years now. And like the little pier that got blown out into Tampa Bay, they just started the walkway back out there. So that's one of the last things. There's another pier that totally disappeared. It just went into the water. That one hasn't even started being rebuilt. They're going to be rebuilt. So a lot of them are you have to get bids on that stuff, and it's a lot slower process. But the people of the island are very resilient. Property values never wavered. I mean, it always stayed the
Mhm.
same, which is
Mhm.
pretty impressive.
Well, what you're pointing to is a really key fact about the difference between the experience of struggle and the reality of struggle.
Yes.
And it seems like those two should be the same, but they really aren't, because the experience of struggle is that it's endless and that it's painful and it just goes on and on. And the reality was it got done in about a year.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. But also when the time perspective of time. So one of the things that best illustrates Einstein's theory, that time is relative,
Hmm.
right? What he didn't know this because he obviously didn't do this, but if you've ever held a plank, an exercise plank for 1 minute,
Hmm.
you'll understand why time is relative.
Oh, it is. Yes.
Because if you want to stretch your life out, do a plank.
Try it for 2
Because
minutes. After 1 minute, 1 minute seems easy after a while compared to 2 minutes. 2 minutes is just impossible.
yeah, and so when I'm doing a plank, I'm thinking, how can a minute be this long? I mean, it's ridiculously long. Whereas other times minutes just slide by. But it's when you're in that strain of holding a plank or whatever, it's terrible. So your perspective and how you're viewing how struggle goes determines what that is. But when you understand that it's all going to get there, and you view it differently, it doesn't seem so bad. But the idea that struggle, it like, the concept of failure being right in that same category for me. Failing is a way not to do it.
It also occurs to me that the action piece, bringing the A word into it again, the action piece is a way not only to get the whole thing going, but it's also a way to reduce the feeling of endlessness of struggle.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because when you're not taking action, that's when the endlessness seems to stretch out. I mean, literally, the only action you're doing when you're doing that plank is just pulling the position of the plank. You're not doing a whole lot. I mean, you are, but you're really not. It's not like you're going off and doing a bunch of things and lifting things and doing all this stuff. You're just holding one position. That's it. And yet, because you're just doing that one thing.
Time out. I think you should go do a plank right now and come back and report.
Well, relatively speaking, you're not doing a whole lot. You're just there. You're just doing that.
I can deadlift 500 pounds multiple times, and it's not near as bad as holding a plank for 1 minute.
And when you're just doing that, that's when your mind is going nuts.
Yes.
That's when your mind is just playing games with you, saying, this is endless. This is continuous. When is this agony ever going to end? It isn't until you do other kinds of actions that the agony goes away.
Well, and also the idea of like holding a plank, using that for example. I kid about that a lot. I do planks every day or every other day. Mm-hmm. When I'm thinking about it, when I used to do it, oh my God, this is so bad. It did seem like forever. Mm-hmm. I just hold a plank, close my eyes. I don't look at the timer. I just close my eyes, hold the plank, and then 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes are gone. It's not what I jokingly talk about that. But in the beginning, my perspective of it was hell. Now it's just no big deal. Mm-hmm. And but it's that way with anything. It's just the life is going to either be really hard or really easy, and it's the same mission. It's just how you view it. It really is that easy.
That's the one thing I think you and I have talked about it before. That's the one thing that took us the longest to come to terms with. We often express it as law of attraction is much easier than what we were thinking that it was. It's much more simple.
Well, it can't be this easy. It just can't.
It can't be this easy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had to talk about it a lot, and it's absurdly easy. It's just it's no effort at all.
And the same thing applies to our perceptions about struggle.
Yes.
If whether or not struggle is perceived as being endless and painful, or is struggle no big deal and it's going to take me to some wonderful stuff. They're two entirely different perspectives.
Yeah.
And you can pick either one. The question is, which one are you picking? Well,
and what started this, and for the show, Walt and I were talking about a client that I've recently seen, and had a very very negative view of everything, and has a lot going on. And this client is stuck in the negativity. He just can't see anything else. And he any suggestion, it's like, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Nothing works. Have you thought about this? Nothing works. I've tried that. And I'm going, no, I know you haven't tried this because this is brand new. No, it still doesn't work. Yeah.
I love that last bit. I know you haven't tried it. It's brand new. Oh, no, it doesn't work.
Yeah. But when you're predisposed to believe that, you're broke, or you're unlucky in love, or those are the things we own. We own those feelings, and then the universe, law of attraction, whatever we want to call it, then plays that back to us. It's not because the law of attraction is trying to bug us, or it's just saying, this is what you're feeling. Here's what you're getting. That's it. It's just, we don't care, but here it is.
I was just thinking about struggles I've been dealing with lately. A lot of my struggles are tied in with this AI project I'm working on. And I've been learning a lot about how AI actually works and what it really is and so forth. But I learned something just over the weekend that, and this is going to sound weird, I actually learned it a few months ago, but I didn't really learn it. And what I mean is, I won't give a whole tutorial on AI, but I'll tell you one thing that kind of shapes the whole thing for you. One of the most important things you can do when you're interacting with an AI is give it a complete listing of all the things that you want it to do when it answers your prompt or your question or whatever it is you're typing in. The more that you can define that, the better the answer is going to be. And when you're doing the kind of thing I'm doing, I'm trying to get everything to work through what they call an API, which is basically like a backdoor to the AI. I mean, most people, we work through, we go to chatgpt.com where we work on the website, that kind of thing. But you can also go through a backdoor called an API, and it basically does the same kind of thing, but without going through their website. When you go through the API, it's especially important to spell out as part of your prompt that you're sending to the API. It's especially important to lay out, here are all the things you need to know before you answer this question I'm about to ask you. And I'm going to spell it all out for you in detail. And there are a number of different words for it. I call it boilerplating or pre-prompting. There are a couple different ways to look at it. Here's the thing that I just learned recently. I don't do that when I go to the front-end UI. The UI is the user interface. When I go to the website, I don't do that. And I'm thinking, well, why the hell not? What took me so long to figure that one out? And I don't really know what took me so long, but what I do know is this: struggle is how I figured it out. Because I was struggling with this thing over the last few days, trying to figure out, why is it I'm not getting the results that I'm looking for when I'm working with the user interface?
Yeah. I mean,
well, I'm not prompting it the way I know to prompt the back end. Duh.
Well, for me, I've incorporated a lot of AI use in some of my stuff, and I love it. And the prompts, like I said, I tell it everything, and plus it remembers everything. So from that, here I am, here's what I do. It's read my website. It knows my philosophies. I'm always talking to it. So my prompts are based on everything you know about me. Here's what it's amazing but you got to get very specific, and you want to, it does. ChatGPT in the beginning with me has a tendency to want to agree with everything I was saying.
Oh yeah. Ultimate yes man.
Yeah. And I was like, I want an antagonist. I want challenge. and it does a really good job of that.
If you tell it to do it, if you give it the permission, absolutely.
Yeah. It pushes back. It's like, I was talking about something the other day, and it's like, well, 80% of your concept may be right, but here's where you're wrong. It was that blunt. And I'm like, wow, thank you. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we need that as human beings. We need that contrast.
Well, I've always been I love to debate. I love to discuss, and I like to test my theories against logic. And does this hold water? Did this happen? And, like so many studies of exercise, for example, it can apply to anything. There's so many contradictory studies. You know what I mean? It'll be like, this study says the exact opposite of this study.
Yeah, and, of course.
and you're going in and you can find any study to match what you want to match. And that's that. And people use that and say, well, so there's a guy he's a social media influencer, and he sells collagen protein. Collagen protein is good. It's a good protein. It's not a complete protein. It doesn't build muscle, but it's mainly for connective tissue and stuff like that. Okay. So he made the statement that take collagen and it turns into collagen. It doesn't. You take collagen and the stomach breaks it down into the amino acids that are based in collagen. Now, it can use those to build collagen, which it is, that's the reason you would take it. But taking collagen doesn't automatically go to your body as collagen.
It's not necessarily a trigger.
Yeah. So, but he claims that. And so I messaged him and I said, I said, I'm not sure where you're getting that from. Do you have any, because everything I've read, and then he references a study from 1979.
Okay. Wow.
And I said, so the 175 other studies that have been done in the year 2000 or later, you're ignoring to go after this 1979 study. And he goes, well, it's still valid. And I go, but there's literally all these other studies that contradict that. It contradicts that. He goes, no, but I said, look, I'm fine with you selling collagen protein. I really am. I think it's a cool thing you're doing. But it's a little misleading, especially when you want to challenge people to see that. It's and plus he's charging an absurd amount of money for his college approach. It's just so overpriced, and he doesn't change that. And I said, I'm not the police here on Instagram. I didn't know where you were getting it from, so I'll just say you're basing everything on that one 1979 study.
Yeah. It's a funny thing. You were reminding me of something, an interaction that I had. I saw somebody had published something. I'm trying to remember the details of it, but the details are escaping me. But I remember the gist of it. The gist of it is that they were trying to describe the way society typically interacts with this X, whatever the X was that they were talking about. Again, I don't remember what the X was, but they were trying to describe in generally how society interacts with it. And their general description was fairly accurate. What they were failing to address was that's a norm, that's an average. And just because the average represents a significant proportion of society doesn't mean it represents all of society. And I mean, most people are not average. That's just simple fact. So I was pointing out to them, you're skipping all the people who don't fit the average. You're saying the only thing that counts is the people who are in the average.
Yeah.
And as I wrote that, I realized we do that a lot. I mean, not just this particular author, we all do that a lot. We have a tendency we get locked in on one particular concept, particularly one perhaps that a large number of people are tied into. We say, well, that's true for everybody. But that's like saying that, just because Elon Musk has so many things I don't like, that means I can't like the fact that he believes in creating failures sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Yeah. When you talk in absolutes, when you take averages, but you talk absolutes, you're jumping the shark, so to speak. You're going in the wrong, averages tell us where I would think anybody who sort of knows me at all would say, yeah, he's not average in any area.
Not the first word that would come to my mind to describe.
Yeah. So that I'm constantly talking about bio individuality. That's my, I make the argument with medical doctors all the time. My blood pressure my entire life since I've been a little kid has been 130/80. It was considered good blood pressure, and then they kept lowering the standards. And so I understand, but so my doctor's like, I want to put you on blood pressure medication. I go, I have the same blood pressure I did when I was 10. And he goes, well, the standards have changed. I go, I haven't. I'm not going to go on a medication for that. It's not. It doesn't make any logical sense, because you're discounting the fact that that's my average.
Yes.
That's my middle, and you're saying that most people are down here. And I said, my heart's functioning very well. I don't have any, any. He's like, well, you should be on blood pressure medication. I'm gonna recommend it still. I know you won't take it. I'm not feeling it, so don't send it. But it's just this. They want to herd everybody into the center, and the center is just an explanation. It's not where people really are.
And it forgets the fact that, like, any kind of scientific study, when somebody publishes a scientific study, and the scientific study has found something to be statistically indicative of something, what they're really saying is a larger percentage of X happened compared to what they would have thought.
Yes.
Compared to some previous standard that they had. It exceeded that standard by X amount.
Yes.
And what the universally gets forgotten in all that is the X can be a really small shift. I mean, in some cases, a shift of like 1 or 2% can be enough, mathematically speaking, to be a significant change. It ignores the fact that there's still the other 98%.
Well, that's it. I mean, it is one of those things that just the way we do things. We're wanting everybody right here in the middle. That's what it's more convenient that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I am the other way. I like the outliers. I like the ones that challenge things. I like the ADD wild brains,
Mm-hmm.
I like kids that, they just go in another direction. They're brilliant. They think different. They see it differently. And I had an argument. One of my really younger clients, he's only like 9, and he's one of the most brilliant guys in the world. And right before Christmas break, they're having a meeting to, like he's having a hard time paying attention. And so we're having a meeting at the school, and the school psychologist is like, he just won't focus on what's important.
And
And
loaded statement.
Yeah, and I said, no. He's focusing on what is really important to him. I said, you ever talk to him? I said, he's into space, and he knows every dinosaur, he knows every insect and all these different categories. But you're asking him to just focus on this. And he goes, well, that's what matters. And I go, but that's what you think that's what matters.
Yeah.
And so I said, what are we doing? I said, you got this literally brilliant child. He's brilliant. He knows how to read. He knows how to do all that stuff. But he is just fat. He wants to learn everything he can about the stuff he's into. So why can't we let him do that? I don't know. This guy doesn't make amazing discoveries later on as an adult if we let him go. But you're wanting to cram him back into the middle. And, and so they have a program at one of the local schools. He's only 9, but there's a middle school program that explores a lot of this. So they're blown away. I'm advocating that he attend that program in the mornings 3 times a week.
Okay.
I said, Mom will provide the transportation, well, we can't do that. And I go, I've scanned the rule book and I can't see why you can't do that. Well, it's out of the norm. I go, it's not costing you anything. Same school district. I don't understand. And I just kept going and going. And they're arguing with logic. They said, we've never done that. And I go, if you say that one more time, I'm going to have you tested.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it.
And they eventually agreed to do it. And yeah, and then with that, I can tell the kid, now that I've done this and we got this set up, you got to get your butt in gear and learn this other crap. Okay. That's our deal. And he will.
And that's just it. Yeah. It's amazing what happens when we recognize what people really do right instead of what they do that isn't what we want them to do. It reminds me of a number of people who are famous. The one that's coming to my mind right now, I don't even know why, is Julia Child. Now, Julia Child is known for having been a tremendous cook, but she was also a tremendous presenter on television.
Yes.
It was actually the way that she presented on TV that made her more famous than her cooking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think it's probably safe to say that she didn't keep a dirty house or anything like that, but it wasn't a top priority for her.
Yeah.
I mean, she would do just enough. No big deal. And I can just imagine an instructor coming along and saying, no, you're not cleaning the house right. We can't let you be a cook or a TV personality until you learn to clean the house properly.
Well, and one of the things I like about various cultures that do this, really early on, they start looking at a track. What's this kid? What is his aptitude? What is his interest? What is this? And they start allowing them to go toward that track. And instead of this general overall learning, which may have been applicable back in 1985 or something, it doesn't work now. It's commonly, you're just going through the motions. And it's a frustrating thing that I'm about. Let's start getting in other directions. Like in Virginia, they have the aptitude test that every student must pass to actually graduate. It's called the Standard of Learning, or SOL.
SOL, yeah.
Yeah. So back in my day, SOL meant shit out of luck.
Yeah,
so,
I was just gonna say.
Yeah. So one day I was like, so they have this trade program, really pushing trade programs for my ADD kids, and I'm like, if you go on the trade track, is the SOL even relevant? And they didn't like that question at all. Well, we have to do that by law. And I go, who makes the law? Well, we do, but I said, so again, we're stuck. We get stuck on minutia. We get stuck on the silliness, and yeah, I'm sure the SOLs maybe play some role. I've never thought it made any sense, but at least maybe look at a track for trade. If somebody starts learning a trade at 16, they know their basic math, they know how to read, they know how to do their checkbook, know how to do taxes. Let them learn their trade. Let them graduate with a diploma in their trade. Call it high school diploma in your trade, whatever, and let them go. They're going to be wildly successful. I mean, they're 18, 19, go out and start doing real work.
Something just occurred to me. We've been describing these various scenarios under which people are resistant to letting other people do things differently from what their prescribed track or their prescribed standard is. And it also occurs to me, those are all struggle situations. And I don't mean the person that they're focusing on. I mean the person who's doing the focusing.
Oh, yeah.
They're the ones who are struggling. They're struggling with somebody or some situation coming along that doesn't fit their norm. It doesn't fit their idea about how things should work. It doesn't fit their plan. And they struggle with it. And it leads to an interesting thought. I wonder how many of them actually learn from their struggle and how many of them reject the learning. Because really, that's what struggle is for. Struggle is there to help you learn something, to help you advance quickly. I mean, your story, other stories that people have told here on the show, they're all about they struggled through something. They had some sort of a crash and burn. They had a crisis. They came out the other side, and they just shot off to some sort of wonderful success. But that's not what happens with all people who struggle. Some people who struggle just stay in the struggle.
Absolutely.
And they don't emerge from it. And so that's why I'm thinking, I wonder, some of these educators, for instance, I wonder how many of them emerge from their struggle and say, you know what, I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to shoot out of here. And others just say, no, I'm going to stay in this because, boy, I deserve this punishment.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk about these things, the people that I'm talking about are usually really good people. They have good belief systems. They don't like things to change. That they don't like it to change. I said in today's world, like it or not, the attention span of children are not getting longer; it's getting shorter. The social media just gives you 30-second blips, and that's what they're doing. So we can keep fighting that, or we can start saying, how do we teach to that?
Yeah, there's an interesting thought. That'll scare a lot of people just by saying that.
Yeah. Well, the other one that was hilarious is when I had one of my clients, high schooler, get in trouble last year for using Chat GPT on his final exam essay. And so the argument, I'm always going to defend my client, whether, he shouldn't have done it, but nonetheless he did. And so my statement was, I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. He shouldn't have done that. But the wild take that I have is him knowing how to use Chat GPT and AI this early is far more important than this obnoxiously boring essay you were making him write.
Actually, to tie it into a conversation I had with my guest earlier today, if he knows AI and knows how to interact with it and knows how to get the most out of it, he can set himself up to be one of the highest paid employees over the next 20 years.
Absolutely. It's the thing. You're right. And that's that's the when we look at things, and a lot of us get stuck in concepts, and I'm not trying to change. I would love, I have so many things I would love to change and bring to it. You can't fight all those battles. But it's amazing that if people could just step back and say, because I like to look at things and go, why not? Let's process why not. I don't want to always just say no. Why not? Why can't this work?
I also saw an article today, somebody who's arguing that AI is going to make us all stupid. And the reason that they were giving for it is, well, AI solves our problems for us, so we don't have to think anymore. That was basically what their analysis was. And all I could think was, when was the last time that person who wrote that article or who wrote that study actually sat with an AI and used the interaction with the AI to challenge themselves? Because they clearly didn't. They clearly have no idea how that works.
I
They
remember
think that if they interact with the AI is literally going to stop them from thinking, when in fact it can work exactly the opposite.
Well, for me, AI is very challenging. It makes me think more. It takes me in other directions. It brings up stuff that I didn't think about.
That's right.
I'm a big fan of it. I don't think it's going to make us stupid. I think it's going to make some things we think is important not important. You know, I do think that's going to challenge a lot of people, because it's like, yeah, we cannot worry about that anymore. But this opens up ideas and other concepts. And you know, the one of the coolest thing is there's this 14-year-old kid down in Florida, and he's not my client, but he has this Instagram thing. So what he started last summer was, beginning of summer, he wanted to make $20,000 by the end of summer, mowing yards, doing house cleaning, pressure washing, whatever, you know.
Okay.
And so he walked us through the process. If he started day one, first day of summer, he got Chat GPT to say, well, right now, you know, let's start with lawn mowing. You have a lawnmower, you have this. So the kid started going out. They printed flyers. He knocked on doors. You know, 14-year-old boys knocking on doors, wanting to mow yards. That's a really easy sell. Most people will do it anyway, just to do it. So he started making a lot of money. Then he started buying better equipment. Then he bought a pressure washer. And so Chat GPT is giving him this exact business plan, step by step, every day.
Right.
He's out there executing. So by the end of summer, he made $22,000.
Wow.
And he's now doing like just odd jobs in the winter. And he literally is tasking Chat GPT with Chat GPT knows all the knowledge of what's going on with him. What's the next step? What should we do? He knows the environment. So pressure washing to Christmas lights. He puts up Christmas lights, disposal of Christmas trees. And anybody that thinks AI is going to make us dumber, it's made this kid very productive and you know, super successful. He's going to be wildly successful in life.
Yeah, because he's just learning more and more about how to be successful, which is a fabulous thing. One more example of how struggle actually works in our favor, if we choose to let it, because we still have that choice. That we identified that at the beginning of the show. We can choose to either go with a struggle and learn from it, or to just get stuck in it. It's really entirely up to us.
Struggle is a defeating mechanism or a growth mechanism, and it's up to you which one it is.
So if somebody asks you, is struggle going to hold you back, or is struggle going to help you drive forward, you can honestly answer, yeah.
Yeah. And Henry Ford said, if you believe you can, or you believe you can't, you're right.
Either way, you're right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you, my friend. Look forward to talking about all this stuff next week. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.